Good morning and welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Rochester. We're a congregation of open minds and loving hearts celebrating many sources of wisdom and many spiritual paths. Your faith, your doubts, your questions, your hopes for our world, and your story are welcome here. Welcome to those few souls helping us out in person today and all the service participants, especially Paul as our worship associate and Anne as our cantor. Thank you for serving today. We're grateful for all of you online. Welcome as well. We're glad to be live streaming, which will happen each Sunday at 9 a.m., where you can access the video anytime after that. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the little bell on it, you'll get reminders. It'll be easier for you to find it. Or you can follow the links in the e-news to stay connected to our Sunday services. In the meantime, you can also stay connected online through services as well as small groups, as well as outdoor activities being planned this fall while the weather is good. We're having to be nimble again, as we all are in our lives, as things continue to change quickly and plans need to adapt, sometimes day to day almost. But you can stay up to date through your e-news about what's going on or contact the office or any of the staff. This week it includes an outdoor coffee hour right after the service in the upper parking lot. You can come anytime after the service ends. We'll be up there. There's coffee and water and tea and some chairs placed, and you're welcome to join us for that time each Sunday as the weather holds. And today's weather is good, so it's a good day to be there. Also today there'll be a special table at the coffee hour, and you can see more in your e-news about how to interact with the work of Moose Jaw, Minnesota UU Social Justice Alliance, and their work working with indigenous communities in the effort to stop the Line 3 pipeline in northern Minnesota. You can learn more about how to connect with leaders online through communications, or write postcards or make art in support of a march and rally that's happening at the Capitol in St. Paul this Wednesday. So see more in your e-news or stop by the table at the coffee hour today after service. Today's offering will go to support our church, including half for our Human Needs Fund, which offers emergency financial assistance to those in need. You can give online at urochmn.org/give. Thank you for your generosity. Finally, in the words of the Reverend Eliza Tupper Wilkes, minister of this church in the 1870s, may our faith in humanity and our message of hope and good cheer light our way. It's good to be together. Amy and Chantel will light the chalice.
Today's chalice lighting comes from our hymnal, from Leslie Pohl Kosbau. Flame of fire, spark of the universe that warmed our ancestral hearth, agent of life and death, symbol of truth and freedom, we strive to understand ourselves and our earthly home.
Heart is of the river, body is the mountain, spirit is the sunlight, turn the world around. We are of the Spirit, truly of the Spirit. Only can the Spirit turn the world around. Whoa, whoa. So is life a buddy, wow. Ha! So is life. Whoa, whoa. So is life a buddy, wow. Ha! So is life. So is life a buddy, wow. Ha! So is life. Whoa. So is life a buddy, wow. Ha! So is life.
Good morning. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives might be, I go and I lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. These familiar lines are the beginning of the poem, The Peace of Wild Things by Wendell Berry, a poem that we've heard many times during services and other events here at the First UU. This poem always brings me a feeling of peace and release. It reminds me of the sacredness of nature, of the connection I feel to the bigger picture, the life force, or God, if you want to call it that. This experience of sacredness occurs for me in nature more than anywhere else. When I am outdoors, it's easier for me to get out of my head and take in the moment. I don't think I'm unique in that. I think it happens because the earth is so gosh darn beautiful. I remember hiking in the mountains of Colorado, looking over a ridgeline and seeing the vastness of the mountain range that went on and on and on, seemingly forever. I remember feeling small and insignificant in that moment. It wasn't a bad smallness. It was an amazing insignificance, a sense that I was a little part of something way bigger than just me. Another time, I was in the Boundary Waters with my son Daniel. We were fortunate to have a great campsite tucked away on a small inlet, so we were isolated from the main lakes. We were making supper, and Daniel looked up at me and exclaimed, "Look, a moose!" It was the first time I had ever seen a moose in the wild. He was a bull, a full rack of horns. He plunged into the water on the other side of the inlet and started swimming. At first, I thought he was coming towards us, so I freaked out a little bit. But it changed directions and headed south, just a bit. And he came up out of the lake, water dripping off of him as he sauntered off into the woods. In that moment, everything was right. I was grateful to share it with my son. It was another sacred event I have filed away in my memories. I don't have to be in the woods to experience the beauty of nature. Karen and I don't sit on our deck in the evening nearly enough, but when we do, I almost always feel the stresses of the day leaving me, and I have what the Daily Show's Trevor Noah calls a moment of zen. There's a red maple tree living around about a block from my house, and it turns a little earlier than most trees in my neighborhood. It is the early notification that fall is here, summer is almost over, and winter is not far behind. I think it's a very healthy tree because it literally explodes in red and orange hues for a week or two every year, while everything else is more or less still green. Whenever I walk by it, I get caught up in its colors. In today's service, we're going to talk about and reflect on the sacredness of the earth, its beauty, and the shelter it provides. We're also going to talk about our relationship to the earth and how it belongs to no one individual or group, but is a part of all of us.
When I first discovered this book, We Are Water Protectors, about a year ago, give or take, it quickly became my favorite. Not only is it because of the pictures, but it's also because of the story that it tells. And it weaves in so much with what we want to tell the kids about what is happening with everything in the world these days and the pipelines that we are fighting against. We Are Water Protectors, written by Carol Lindstrom, illustrated by Michaela Goad. Water is the first medicine, Nokomis told me. We come from water. It nourishes us inside our mother's body as it nourishes us here on Mother Earth. Water is sacred, she said. We stand strong with our songs and our drums. We are still here. The river's rhythm runs through my veins, runs through my people's veins. My people talk of a black snake that will destroy the land, spoil the water, poison the plants and the animals, wreck everything in its path. When my people first spoke of the black snake, they foretold that it wouldn't come for many, many years. Now the black snake is here. Its venom burns the land, coursing through the water, making it unfit to drink. Take courage. I must keep the black snake away from my village's water. I must rally my people together to stand for the water, to stand for the land, to stand as one against the black snake. We stand with our songs and our drums. We are still here. This will not be easy. We fight for those who cannot fight for themselves, the winged ones, the crawling ones, the four-legged, the two-legged, the plants, the trees, the rivers, the lakes, the earth. We are all related. Tears like waterfalls stream down, tracks down my face, tracks down my people's faces. Water has its own spirit, Nokomis told me. Water is alive. Water remembers our ancestors who came before us, she said. We stand with our songs and our drums. We are still here. We are stewards of the earth, and our spirits have not been broken. We are water protectors. We stand. The black snake is in it for the fight of his life.
Good morning. It is good to be with you. I invite you to settle in here as we create this place of communal caring and connection. Be enriched by the presence of each other and draw yourself closer into the heart of love at this time of service and reflection. In this time together, we ask that our minds be open, our hearts welcoming, our arms embracing. Here, we honor all who support us in this caring, loving, and all-inclusive ministry. We send gratitude to Lynn Kirkland, serving as our caring coordinator for the last week, arranging care for our members and friends in need. Rhonda Lorenz will take over tomorrow for the next week, and we thank her for that. The members of our caring committee are wonderful examples of our compassionate community, holding us up as we go through challenging and happy times. And this year has taken a lot out of us. It has taken a lot from us. If during this time of increasing needs in our lives, you are experiencing challenges, we encourage you to reach out for support and help. Many of us may need additional care, whether it be personal pastoral care or other assistance, and we encourage you to reach out to Reverend Luke or myself with that request. In this community, we share pieces of our lives with one another. We do this because all people here have value. Each person's experience matters. We lift up those whose lives are experiencing illness, sadness, or loneliness. May the strength and love in our congregation help guide you. And we revel in those who are experiencing joys in their lives. May their happiness lift us all, and may their joy filter into all around them. May all of us find love, hope, joy, and healing strength in our community. We celebrate this morning with Janet and Fritz Breitenbach the birth of their grandson on Tuesday, August 17th. Roman James Bologna was born to Matt and Sarah Bologna, weighing in at 6 pounds and 7 ounces. Mom and baby are healthy and doing well, and Fritz and Janet are grateful and excited for very good reason. We welcome this new life to the world and hold them all in our hearts at this wonderful time. And as we sneak around the corner into our new normal and ease into the future, which will be a new world, we ask for hope and patience, understanding and acceptance, and a renewed commitment of service to those in our lives, church, and community. As we begin the planning of regathering, we do so carefully and intentionally and with joy. May the faith in the spirit of life, love for the community of earth, and love for the light in each other be ours now and in all the days to come.
I invite you to take an easy breath wherever you are these days, this morning, this moment. Take an easy breath of this breath of life. Sit deeply in this house of love and justice, hope and grace. Know that here you are named and you are known as beloved, as sacred, as welcome. I invite you into this time of meditation, this time of prayer, first by sharing silence together. Earth below us, with ancient turning, and sky and stars above us with ancient light. Hold us here in this moment, this breath of earth and stars of which we are made. Spirit of life and source of love, God of 1,000 names and beyond all naming. It can be hard, almost impossible at times, to remember how much is beyond our ownership, beyond our control. In a world that both invites and sometimes demands consumption of land or resources, wealth, people, places, things, a society that often places property as the epitome of worth and value. May we set our roots more deeply in the values we try to live by, of inherent worth and dignity of all people, of reverence for the interdependent web of which we are one part, helping us both feel small and part of something holy at the same time. May we live at the intersections of humility and affirmation of who we are and who we're called to be, the intersections of justice and spirituality, where our soul is centered enough to add our gifts, whatever they may be, to the work of collective liberation, of healing, or as our spiritual ancestors would say, to the work of universal salvation in this life, on this planet, that what threatens any of us threatens all of us. We hold in our hearts this day all those who suffer in mind, in body, or spirit. We hold the continued uncertainty around our world, those suffering from climate catastrophe, the chaos in Afghanistan after decades of continued struggle and ongoing war and imperialism. May we all be instruments of a lasting and a just peace, of reconciliation, of a better shared future for our world. I invite you to bring the names of those people, those places you're holding in your own hearts this day, in joy or in sorrow, celebration or concern, and silently or aloud now in this time to speak their names. For the many names, spoken, unspoken, may we be forever grateful for the fabric of love and life that weaves us together. May those threads hold us in love and strength. These words of meditation come from Wendell Berry, who Paul read from us earlier, too. I go by a field where once I cultivated a few poor crops. It is now covered with young trees, for the forest that belongs here has come back and reclaimed its own. And I think of all the effort I have wasted and all the time of how much joy I took in that failed work and how much it taught me. For in so failing, I learned something of my place, something of myself, and now I welcome back the trees. Amen.
Over
The first reading is called Eagle Poem by Joy Harjo. To pray, you open your whole self to the sky, to earth, to sun, to moon, to one whole voice that is you, and know there is more that you can't see, can't hear, can't know except in moments steadily growing and in languages that aren't always sound but other circles of motion. Like eagle that Sunday morning over Salt River, circled in blue sky, in wind, swept our hearts clean with sacred wings. We see you, see ourselves, and know that we must take the utmost care and kindness in all things. Breathe in, knowing we are made of all this, and breathe, knowing we are truly blessed because we were born and die soon within a true circle of motion, like the eagle rounding out the morning inside us. We pray that it will be done in beauty, in beauty. The second reading is called Ghost Dance by Sarah Little Crow Russell. 270 ghost dancers died screaming that humanity would drown in a flood of white sins. Then the renewed earth would claim city and town, leaving only ghost dancers and those who lived by nature's laws. History books say that the threat is gone. The ghost dance died with its ancestors. Wovoka and his sacred dream were destroyed. Each time it rains, I go out to the sidewalk, where the tree roots have broken the concrete, listening to the waters whispering, "It is coming soon."
There are moments, you know them, where something from your past, like a word or a phrase that catches in your throat like an echo from a family member that you didn't know you said it just like they said it, or a recipe or a ritual or a memory that lives in your bones based on some special day or place or game or song, where the past seems to break through the regularity of the day and greet you and says, "Remember this? Remember this is who you are. This is part of you." There are other moments, you know these too, where the earth itself seems to try to shake you awake with its beauty, with its power, with its strength, tries to shake you awake the way that the sun falls in the evening sky, bringing with it a trail of color and light like a blessing, a lullaby on the end of day. Or the power of a storm, or the sheer cracking sound and the brightness of lightning, or the simple, quiet light at the end of a firefly, trickling behind it, this blinking beauty across the field. Or favorite places most certainly where there is a trickle or a roar or waves of water that are like healing balm to the soul. Or places of the tenacity, the persistence of weeds that you can't help but appreciate even as it drives you a little weary at times. Those moments where the earth reminds you it is beautiful and strong, it is fragile, it is resilient, and you are part of it. You're made of it, made of dust and stars in biology and spirituality, all of it, those moments where ancestors, all those living things, human and otherwise, can make you feel so small and fragile and so connected and large and powerful, all in the same tangled moment. Now, I'm not an expert at really much of anything, but I try my best to know enough through good and trusted sources of what I'm called to speak on or act on, either publicly as a minister or just as a community member, a citizen, as a simple act of ethics to stay connected and informed, to be a good person, to try to be. I'm certainly not an expert in pipelines or the history of treaties or environmental law. If anything, like many I grew up with, I have more connections, my history, with so-called blue-collar trade workers and unions, which makes the ethics and relationships with industry a little complex. And yet there is something as well that runs deep in my identity and in this place on this part of the planet, which I have called home for generations and that I love, amidst its complex and hard history with indigenous people. I grew up singing for the beauty of the earth and hearing the imagery of ancient poems and scriptures praising the beauty of what my family called God's green earth. We spent a lot of time outside, and my grandfather, who is a preacher in this part of the world, not too far from here, was also wanted to be a farmer, but instead settled for a large garden in the parsonage yard. So certainly no perfect Eden there, but something beautiful and humbling, and worth at the very least our care, if not much more. And as a reminder, at least in that spirituality, like so many other spiritualities, that the earth does not belong to any of us. There is no deed, no title that offers you this planet we depend on. We live in relationship to it, with it, as part of it. It is something much larger, more ancient, more sacred than our imagining, and we are part of it, and that is a mysterious and a miraculous gift. To be part of the ongoing, the unfolding creation, stretching back to the first sparks of the stars of heaven, to this breath now. And more, I know enough to know that I don't know enough. That's a complicated mantra that's so important. To know enough that we don't know enough. Like in today's reading that Paul shared with us from Joy Harjo, know there is more that you can't see, can't hear, can't know except in moments steadily growing, in languages that aren't always sound but other circles of motion. I'm learning, trying to learn more. You can learn more at stopline3.org. You can find that link in our e-news too. And I'm learning to know and remember there are good resources and so much collective wisdom that I don't have to know it all or understand it all, but I can pay attention to it. Communities and leaders who are clear about valuing people and planet over profit and property and politics. The Stop Line 3 work includes indigenous leaders who have been doing this hard work for generations and others as well with them. And right here in Minnesota, we do know some things. That the Line 3 pipeline will cross over 200 bodies of water. It will not only cross the lines of the 1854 and 1855 treaty areas of the Anishinaabe people, but put into potential harm the traditions and practices of the Anishinaabe and Ojibwe people, not only as a threat to natural landscape and waterways, but common loves in our state, like the practice and cultivation of wild rice, which is a sacred food and practice of cultivation for these communities. Thousands of people over years, through hearings and letter writing and all the regular political channels, people showed up, organized, gathered information and resources and arguments about the potential harmful impact to people and planet. Minnesota's own Commerce Department didn't support this line. And that work, though threatened, has kept its construction at bay, delayed, even as it still rages on. This line that was slated to be completed a few years ago, this black snake, like Amy read to us. And while it can be easy to be swayed into conversations that seem reasonable, that lift up complexities of legalities and process and the complexity of fossil fuels, and that though they are bad, we're still in a place where we need them, I keep bringing to mind an old scripture phrase I grew up with too, that rings in my ears from my ancestors. Just because something is lawful does not mean it is right. And to be clear, this line is nowhere near lawful when actual treaty rights and manipulated legalities, power dynamics of history and indigenous sovereignty is taken seriously. But I'm asking that question, just because something is lawful does not mean it's right, so what is right? It has become so clear to me, learning from people much wiser than I, of our need, a need of survival, a need of living morally, to lean toward collective liberation, which means honoring the stories and the rights of the oppressed, which means honoring literally treaty rights and indigenous dignity, which means having the courage to say, yes, it might be messy, but fossil fuels are killing us, people, planet. And if we don't feel the pressure of that yet, it's because we have enough protection around us to not feel it yet. It's become so clear to me that anything that gets in the way of that economic and infrastructure system that prioritizes property, that fuels an unsustainable use of resources, that beats back marginalized communities with force and dismissal, anything that gets in the way of that is worth it. These systems of dominance, of unquestioned progress toward a future that puts us all in harm. There is so much we're holding these days. I invite you to take an easy breath again. So much. Like most days, maybe. But the exasperation and the frustration at the gaping chasm between where we should be right now and where we are in this pandemic, in the health of our planet, in the hope of democracy and global unrest, how does the soul find roots and hold on to something life-giving? Adrienne Marie Brown, a teacher, author, activist, is one of the greatest liberation leaders of our time. If you don't know her work, I invite you to look her up. Writing recently, they wrote these questions about what we're all holding. I know I am. And I invite you to enter into this excerpt I'm going to share almost like a guided meditation, to hold within your mind and heart these questions, these griefs, these hopes, but also the hopes, the griefs, the questions that they bring up within you. So she starts by writing this, and this was written just in the last several days. I'm thinking about that in this era of COVID and climate catastrophe, natural and unnatural disasters, which this week meant wildfires, floods, droughts, earthquakes, and disaster capitalism feeding off of all of it. Culture shifts, long-term war consequences from indigenous struggles locally in the U.S. to the Taliban in Afghanistan. She writes, it's all connected. Decisions made from a competitive, supremacist, dominant mindset lead to top-heavy economies, infrastructures which inevitably collapse, leaving the survivors to contend with the refuse of empire. Then she writes these questions, about how these realities call to us to recalibrate, refine our lives, what we're learning about the well-being of our communities. She asks, and I ask myself, can I surrender the recent normal for the present need? Can I commit to practicing a new and limited present normal for the sake of a species' future? Can I listen more deeply to the earth and to the patterns? Can I keep finding the space to feel for direction within the chaos? She writes, seeing the pattern of life unfolding inside destruction and chaos, then I keep bringing my attention to that life unfolding. I despair, and then I seek laughter, and I seek community of others who both feel afraid but also work to stay connected. I don't wait for perfection or magic, she writes. I participate in the mundane work of staying alive. And finally, she offers this mantra: relinquishing control and offering love, mundane living as acts of love, humility in the face of the unknown, seeing and shaping the whole not as a million overwhelming waves, but as a sea that is collective love. Living in generosity and gratitude every day is living love. Being nature is being love. I love her phrase, mundane practices of staying alive. These are words I'm holding on to, that are holding me these days, going through daily rituals, attending to small, manageable moments, relinquishing control, offering love in whatever way, humility in the face of the unknown, living in generosity and gratitude in whatever ways I can. So more and more when these days of chasm between where we ought to be and where we are, and these days of chaos between our hopes and our realities, between these threats to collective or communal health, I'm leaning toward the power and the presence of ancestors, my personal ancestors and those in the wider humanity. I'm wondering and curious about them. Those that endured and survived and found a way in the midst of times of equal or many times much greater chaos than now. Those that persevered or did what they could, whatever that was, to the mundane yet resilient acts of simple daily living, day to day. I'm curious these days, how did they do it? What was it like? How was it the same and different from our world now? How are their learnings echoing now in our resilience? It has to be, I imagine, that the way they did this, at least in part, that we are doing this, is taking these largest values and questions of life and justice and love, taking these largest griefs and sorrows that can weigh the soul of health and war and survival down into the moment of now. Ancient traditions have taught us this for centuries. To focus on right now. When you notice something that is common, as simple as taking a breath, as feeling the sun, as seeing a table filled with garden vegetables, like last Sunday's table out in coffee hour, just spread with leftover garden vegetables for the taking, a little free garden out there. The moments of being awestruck by the intensity of storm, shaking at the sound of that lightning and how close it was. The simple things like noticing all those mosquito bites and, oh my, all those mosquito bites, and a reminder of our connection with nature, itchy as it may feel sometimes. But to notice, there's a miraculous moment in noticing of sun and kindness, laughter and love, that it is breath by breath and day by day, laugh by tear, by elbow bump, by whatever it is that is a lifeline for you right now. Those are the things that sustain our survival, our soul survival. Not pipelines filled with oil, but lifelines filled with love and beauty that show up almost like ghosts. And it isn't that it just happens out of nowhere. The miracle is when our heart is open to the moment, And we simply remember that miracles are everywhere. And when we remember that, we live a little different. Each time it rains, I go out to the sidewalk, writes Sarah Little Crow Russell, where the tree roots have broken the concrete, listening to the waters whispering, "It is coming soon." So the last question is, where have the tree roots broken up through your own mundane concrete of the heart to give you life? What tree roots have broken through? And what gifts have those mundane miracles cracked open in you that you are ready to give? The hymn is for the earth forever turning. I invite you, wherever you are gathered, to place a hand on your heart or toward the stars of heaven in gratitude for the earth holding you. May we find a way in the midst of chaos to notice where love takes hold, takes root, and those miracles when it breaks through the hardened places and offers life. May we pay attention to those breaks. Amen.